Hey, so I wanted to take a look at our semiconductor category. This is our last category before starting back at the top. Um, but yeah, so for this video, I want to look at these top three. So we have ASML, Nvidia, and Qualcomm. Those three just are the highest valued based on the last time we looked. Things, of course, might have changed, but last time we looked at these, those were the three highest in terms of stock price. Last time we looked at these was about a month and a half ago, April 24th, 25th. Um, so I just want to see what's changed, just get a broad sense in terms of its technical analysis. And if you have any questions or want to add anything from your perspective, by all means, let me know. Uh, but let's start with ASML here. So again, last time we looked at this was April 24th. At that point, it was trading at 627. We had buy points marked at 544 and 576 with resistance at 667. Um, we also saw quarter one bookings were down about 50%, so we didn't really like that. And then we also noticed that we were seeking a PE ratio, a price to earnings ratio of 27 or less. Uh, I guess we'll look into that. Uh, as long as Yahoo Finance is like up to date, that should be easy to check on to see, just to confirm if this is a buyer or not. So we have ASML up on the screen. It looks like it's kept its uptrend. I didn't make a note of that, but I just want to extend this line out a little bit further. And then we'll do the same for this one if we can. Trying to keep it as parallel as possible. Something like that looks correct. So this uptrend started back in November, and it's still in effect as far as I can see. The last time we looked was April 24th, which was right here, somewhere in this range at about 627. So that's actually, it's somewhere in the tail region. Looks like we drew in this yellow line, being optimistic that it might break trend, go back towards this fair value range in between the blue lines. Now that I look at it, I guess I'm okay with this top one. The bottom, I probably would have pulled that down a little bit, and I guess I will just cause. Okay. But yeah, so obviously it didn't break trend like we were kind of hoping it would. So I'm just going to get rid of that. But yeah, the uptrend is still intact. It's at the bottom of the uptrend. So that's worth a point to some degree. However, it's broken what we thought would be kind of resistance. And I guess if we look at it, two times it kind of struggled to get above that point of 667, which that was our resistance point. Yeah, back in February, it peaked above, but pulled back, but stayed within that uptrend for the most part. Came back again in end of March and early April. Again, it tested that line, ultimately pulled back. And then in May, here we are, it's now above the line, all while keeping this uptrend. Our uptrend, of course, isn't like exact or anything, it's just majority, I would say. And it dipped below for a little over a month, but ultimately came right back up. So the lower end of the range might need to be pulled down a little bit. For now, I'm going to keep it the way it is. So one positive is it's at the lower end of this uptrend. The negative is it's gone through a resistance point, which I guess isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just it makes me wonder if this is going to pull back. If it pulls back, Some point of support. We could argue 667 is somewhat support because previously last year in June it went above that line and then it acted as support for about a month and a half. If there was another point, I could say maybe 614. It kind of acted as support here for a second when it pulled back. Here, it didn't want to dip below that point. Ultimately, it did, but it took a couple weeks. It's still scrolling over. It's kind of acted as support since January. Here, it tested it. Did cross that threshold, but bounced right back. And then here we are again, where it was close. Maybe the tail was probably below it, but ultimately it stayed above. So we could say this point, we could bring it up to about 614, somewhere here-ish. That could be support, we can argue. And then in terms of resistance, do I see another resistance point? Not really, because this was on the way down. There's not really much resistance on this one outside of about 862, really. So a lot of potential to grow here. So let's just kind of zoom back in. So April 24th, right in here. Since then, it's gone up, pulled back just slightly, but currently 715, so we'll update that. Gone up a good chunk, so hopefully pretty sure we bought a share or two. This one's kind of high dollar, in the 600s, now 700, so if I did buy, it's very small quantity. If I were to buy this one, potentially if we believe in this uptrend, now's a decent time to buy. If we think this is going to continue upwards for the rest of the year, the whole next quarter, now is a good time. So I need to put in, I guess this week would be like 727 would be, if we believe in the uptrend, that would be the dip point. So 727. That is not like my ideal spot, of course. And I guess it's really like 724. I just don't want to give it too much credit yet. In terms of where I would like to buy this one, you know, if it broke down to like 613, that's kind of my spot at this point. So I'm going to remove those 500 numbers, but I'll add in 613. 613 is that blue, that top blue line. I'm going to make 613 bold because that's kind of that is my buy spot at this moment, until I, of course, read up on this and see either good news or bad news. I think there's going to be other opportunities at better prices. So right now, I'm going to put this one as red, but of course that could change. Resistance for this one, not really seeing any until about 840. So I'll put in, it's going from 667 to 840. That is crazy. So there's still a lot of room for this one to grow, and it wouldn't be all that surprising. But we'll see. We'll see here. Any other? I mean, resistance was 667, so I'm just going to put that line back in, or that point back in. 667. I'm going to make that one bold, I guess. I guess they both carry equal weight, but I really thought it was going to struggle. I mean, I guess it did. So I guess it is okay. So we won't put either of them bold. We'll just leave it as it is. They both kind of carry equal weight. And then let's go to Yahoo Finance, see what the PE ratio looks like for this. PE ratio is at like 38. Yeah, so it's way over that 27 figure. Yeah, I'm content with leaving this one red as a resistant at this point. Overall, though, we'll add in uptrend since November of 2022. Possibly buy dips. If pulls back far enough. Okay, I think we're okay on this one. So let me just share the wrap up for ASML. So ASML up here, we're marking it red because it's at or above resistance. I would buy this one at 613. If you believe in that uptrend, if you can get this one below 724 this week, that should be decent, especially if this continues upward in that trend. I do have resistance at 667, and that's another reason why I'm kind of hesitant on buying this one today. However, if that uptrend continues, I think there's not really any resistance in the way until about 840, which would be nearing all-time highs again. So depending on your belief in this one at this point, based on the news around it, I'd be okay with this one. Yeah, I guess it's just too soon. If this one clearly, let me look at it one more time. Yeah, I'm tempted to give this one fair value because there is such a high ceiling on this. Let me just see how high it is. So we have about, what is that, 125 divided by 715. So the ceiling's like another 17% higher. Yeah, I guess I'm going to leave it red. I think the deciding factor for me is that PE ratio. The fact that we were looking for 27 and it's currently at like 38. I think it's just too high today. So let's move on. Let's go on to Nvidia here. I know this one's had a huge rally, but last time we looked was April 25th. Currently it was at 262. We had buy points marked at 228. No resistance because it was in this uptrend channel. We were expecting a flat quarter in terms of earnings per share. I'm pretty sure that was the case. We also noted to buy dips on this, so let's just check it out, see what Nvidia's done. So it has popped off like crazy. It's interesting because in a way I thought, I mean, this was my forecast in a way of what I thought the stock would do. I thought it would peak right around here, and potentially it did, and then I thought it would pull back. It's just I thought it would pull back to that buy point that we set, 228. And of course that still could happen. It's just instead of being where it is here at like 280, it pulled up here, right? We will see just how this goes. Another thing I want to do here is I want to extend this out another couple months just to see how it's going. Here's another one where it's in this uptrend channel, and it's a narrow channel. Just it looks pretty parallel, but just picking a single point here, so like 229. Oh, okay, it's bigger than we think, up to 270. So okay, it's like a $30 range. It just looks very narrow, but it's bigger than we thought. So for this one, 262, That was right around here. So somewhere here, that was an opportunity for us, but we were looking further out. We thought we could catch it again closer to 228. And we could probably put in a support line here at about 265. We could argue that. Um, yeah, we could. We could. So what I'm going to do is I'll just throw that in just for fun. Right around like 260. Somewhere in here. We'll make it, we just won't make it as thick of a line. Maybe a little bit skinnier. Just to show we saw some sort of support there. But the things that are going for this one, I suppose, are, yeah, the uptrend is intact. That's one good thing. The second good thing is, we've seen this with other stocks, is that when it hits all-time highs, it can surge like this. I think a great example would be back here in 2021. The all-time highs were about 230. All of a sudden, in October of 2021, it reached new all-time highs, and it went from 220 all the way up to 335. That's like a 33% move very quickly. Like a month, a little over a month, it went up 33% from its previous all-time highs. Now we are here today where our previous all-time highs were 335 and this one shot up to 420. That is... Okay, first off, the move back in 2021, that was actually like a 50% return very quickly. This one is like... This one's more like a 30-some percent, maybe high 20s. The thing is, the last time something like this happened, it crashed all the way back down into the low hundreds. Man, we really should have bought it. I knew I should have, but oh well. Just got to move on from that. But so for this one, let's just update our tracker here. So going from 262 up to 387. If I were to buy this one this week, the prices that I'd be looking for is if it pulled back to the lower end of the range, which would be 326, that would be a spot where I'd be like, okay, it pulled back enough that I'd be interested. But more, I would, at this point, I'd wait till at least 265. 265 is that little spot, and ideally 228. I mean, so I'm gonna make 228 our bold figure. In some instances, I would have just removed 228 because it's like so far removed from reality. And while this one has this big gap, the thing is, it was at 228 just about close to between 2 and 3 months ago. It was at 228. So I'm willing to keep it on the table for now. Resistance with all-time highs, what we can do is just pull this up. I mean, this is clearly the new all-time high. There's no judging with all-time highs. I think at this point, it's collected a fair amount of just growth. Again, going from, what was this point? About 335 up to 405. So what is that? 70? So it went 70 divided by 335. Is that what we said? I mean, it moved 20%. And so maybe it's going to tap out, pull back. It should pull back to like the 330s. I mean, it should. But I would prefer a pullback to like the 200s again. I don't know if that'll happen. We'll look into their financials, see how our opinions change. But for now, this one's another red. It's at resistance as far as I can see. It's so high it makes me want to short it, in all honesty. Try that route again. But I probably won't. I just watch. So let me update the date. Resistance, I'll just say 405 at this point. Our note, we'll add in an uptrend. Since when? Since January of this year. Okay. So not much really has changed, but so here we are. Let me actually wrap this text here. So Nvidia currently it's at 387. I have a buy points marked at 228, 265, and 326. The buy point that I'm specifically waiting for is 228, somewhere in that range, at least below 265. Resistance at 405, that was its new all-time high. It looks like it's now going to start trending downwards. I just don't know how far back it'll pull. Possibly to 326 might be where it catches, but we'll see. And our note is we added in an uptrend since January of 2023, so about 6 months right now. We're expecting a flat quarter in terms of earnings per share, and I think it's Q2. So I'm going to keep that note in and just see if I can confirm that once I take a look at their financials. And then we noted to buy the dips. So the last dip on this one would have been right in here. 280s, 270s. And it would have paid off pretty good for us. But okay. So moving on to Qualcomm. Qualcomm's the last one we're going to touch on. Again, last time we looked at this was April 25th. At that point, it was trading at 114. We had buy points marked at 105 and 123 with resistance at 144. Also noting financial statements were coming out very soon. So let's take a look, see what's changed since then. So this one's unique. It actually went down. Everything else, it seems, has been just on the up and up. So this uptrend channel has clearly been broken. So we're just going to take this out, these trend lines here. What we could argue is it's, for the most part, just trading between about 105 and 144. We could say that. Yeah, I'm just looking to like update these. So what I'm going to do is add in another point here. I'm going to put this in. I'm going to put this as blue. We'll make that a, oh, did I pick the wrong blue? Make it this one. So this point at about 133, it looks like it acted as resistance here once in early 21. When it was coming down, it kind of hovered around that point in May of 22. Most recently here in February of this year, it's acted as resistance. So there's something to that point. And here at 123 is interesting because it acted as support a number of times on its uptrend. And then on its way down, I mean, here even you could say that that was kind of a support line. But now that it's kind of crashed below in the 100s, low 100s, it's now kind of acting as resistance to a degree. We'll see. But overall, this one seems like it's at a good spot, you know? Below our buy point. Is that full? Okay. So this one actually looks like a go. I mean, I know Qualcomm's kind of funky in a way, only because this is one of those companies that's, its revenue is, it has a main customer in Apple, and Apple's meant to like pull away from Qualcomm. The thing is, I recall Qualcomm starting to shift into Android, and it's not like they're just in smartphones. They are diversifying, so that there's more to them than just, oh, they provide chips to Apple for their iPhones. There is more to them than that. It's just Apple was clearly a big chunk, and it's not like Apple's disappeared yet. It's just over the next probably 3 to 5 years, Apple probably has the goal of removing Qualcomm from its products. It wants to make its own chips, unless of course something changes, but that's kind of the forecast on their end. And that's kind of the worry with this one. But I mean, it's currently at like 120. Where could this one go? Just looking back. I mean, yeah, it could go all the way to like the 60s. Sure, it definitely could. Looking more in the now, going back to like 2020. I mean, yeah, it could pull into like the 80s, I suppose. It's just, I'm sure this company's grown a lot since 2020 till now. And I think I think this is kind of in a good spot. I think one thing we could do is if we just look at the trend here for the most part, it seems reasonable. This one's actually kind of traded flat for a while. Interesting. I had no idea this company at one point was at these type of valuations in the early thousands, late 90s. Interesting. Then it went down into the 20s and 30s, 40s, into like the 60s. I guess you could say even the 70s. So the 20s to 70s in like the next 20 years, and now all of a sudden they're where they're at. I guess technically it gets rated a buy. I'm just, for whatever reason, I'm just kind of on the fence with this one. I want to look into this one a little bit further, but because it's green, you know, I probably will buy one share just to say I have it. I think I do own some Qualcomm, so if I can dollar cost average into this one, get a better price, I'm okay with that. So 114, and that was on here, roughly, right in here. So since then, it's dipped down, crashed below 105, caught itself, and now it popped right back up. So in terms of just looking at points, it really didn't change at all. It just kind of moved flat. But in the details, it actually crashed below 105 and pulled back up. So if we would have looked at this just a week or two ago, we could have caught it sooner. But oh well. So it went from 114 up to 119. Buy points for me is below 123 to 105. At this point, you know, maybe 105 is like 105 is probably the more ideal spot. So I'm going to make that the bold. Resistance. At this point, I'm going to put in 133 as it's struggling to get above that mark. So I'm going to put 133 as bold because that is clearly something's going on at that valuation. We changed the dates. Our note, we could say for the most part it's been flat. So we'll just say consolidating between 105 and we'll say 133 since October, or is this September? Since September of last year. And then, of course, financial statements came out on 5/3. Haven't taken a look at those, but we will soon. Nothing else, really. So, yeah, that pretty much wraps up Qualcomm. Let me scroll this over for us. So Qualcomm currently is at 119. I have buy points marked at 105 and 123. Preferably, we'd want it close to 105, but 123, it's below that, so we're going to give it to it. Resistance at 133, it's struggling there, and then if it were to get above that, the next point of interest would be 144. So we're kind of in the middle, in all honesty. It's just the reason why it's getting a green is that we've seen the potential on this one that it could go up into the 150s, all the way up to 180. So there is room for growth, and that's why it's getting the green. But that pretty much wraps this up. Again, if you have any questions or want to add any insights from what you're seeing, let me know. I'd be happy to read that. Other than that, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.